Welcome to the DFL Breakdown, presented by GrizLeeGear, with your hosts, Lucas Ford and Ricky Epperson.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the DFL Breakdown, the #1 cartoon side character themed, league-specific, weekly fantasy football podcast in the world. We're back. It's Saturday for this episode. We've already had a crazy Thursday night football game in week 2 of the playoffs for us here. So gotta talk about it here. Have some crazy games to go over. And we're just going to run through it real quick here. Only 4 matchups from last week. So not doing any sort of game breaker or anything like that. We're just going to get straight into the action, look at what happened last week here in the play-in matches, and find out what's going to happen in the semifinal matchups of the DFL. Let's get straight into the score summary, and we could talk about what happened last week.
Score summary.
All right. We had 2 playoff matchups last week, a matchup between the Bill Cosby Sleepers and the Homeless Losers, Chris versus Artie. We also had Sal playing against Dylan here. Chris versus Artie, it was a beatdown in Artie's favor. Big performances from Jared Goff, ETN, Nico Collins, and 41 points out of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't really need to go back and look because I believe that was the highest guy here. So Artie with a huge show-out week, showing why he's here in the playoffs. A very strong performance from pretty much everybody in his lineup. Still has some questions down here in the flex, but and he had Micah Parsons go out with that ACL tear, but still a very strong team. We'll see how he performs moving forward. Chris getting knocked out here, playing for pride at this point because he did not get enough out of Dak Prescott, out of his boy Jake Ferguson. Lad McConkey was a letdown for him. Even CMC didn't do his normal 25-point game there. So tough showing for Chris. Missed his projection by over 20 points, and Artie beat his by 40. So big, massive gap, and Artie is moving on into the semis. Sal versus Dylan was much closer here, less than a point of a difference. Jackson Dart getting fired up for Dylan ended up being the wrong choice here. Also Hunter Henry, which I advocated for, also was the wrong choice as well. In a matchup as close as this, I know you're looking at those. I know Dylan was quite upset about the tight end choice and put a little blame on me for that one. So, hey, sorry, buddy, but that is how the cookie crumbles for you this week. Darnold did almost Osama bin Darnold Sal's entire team here, but did have the slack picked up for him by Puka Nacua, by Josh Jacobs, and by Jackson Smith and Jigba, with another big performance from Michael Wilson as well. So, great showing out of the defense for him, too. Tough break for Dylan, getting bounced out in the first round, but last place last year to a playoff appearance. Gotta be proud of that one. Did submit his poop hat picture and wasn't disqualified from the playoffs. So good job, Dylan. Didn't quite make it there, and Sal moving on to week 16. All right, there was 2 toilet bowl matchups as well that we got to talk about. It was Nate, and I think they're all Bucks, no breaks or something like that, and Lehman against each other here. It was a good match for Nate here, getting out of the toilet bowl quickly, scoring over 140 points, getting a big performance out of Jalen Hurts, 30 points out of Travion Henderson in that loss to Buffalo, which is very depressing to think about. Chase Brown has been great in the back half of the season here, and Mike Evans coming back, he looked great as well. So good performances out of those guys for him, and it was enough to do it. Lehman had Brock Purdy going, got 32, but other than that, and Dalton Schultz putting up big for him, Brian Thomas scored 17, but everything else was in the red. Just bad stuff at Lehman's team, and he will continue on in the toilet bowl. It's going to be Nate moving on to the 7th and 8th place matchup against Corey, who beat me in this terrible matchup here. I put Phillip Rivers in for Josh Allen because I wanted the Bills to lose. Of course, Josh Allen goes and scores 30 there, so that kind of was unfortunate for me, and I wanted to put Kenneth Gainwell in for Jaylen Warren because they were saying Jaylen Warren was sick, but I was like, he's gonna play. I'll just let him. I'll let him do it, and that cost me as well. So I am moving on in the toilet bowl, not going to my usual 7th, 8th place game. So this is new territory for me, but it means I'll be playing in the final week of the season for the first time in Dimmadome history, which I'm excited for. I want to have all my games, so lost to Corey there. Bad stuff for the Ball Hogs. We are now the Bad Luck Ball Hogs, and the Apple Bottom DeJeans going up against Nate this week in that 7th and 8th place match. Let's take a look at the bracket real quick before we move on here, because this is kind of how it all shakes up. We've got Alex moving on in the first round through the bye, Artie moving up to play against him. We've got Ricky moving forward in the first round bye, and Sal moving up to play him. It's going to be Dylan versus Chris in that 5th and 6th place matchup, and we still haven't determined who's playing for 3rd or 4th yet. Down here in the toilet bowl, we had Eric and Riley moving on with buys. I am going up against Riley this week after losing to Corey, and Lehman is going up against Eric this week after losing to Nate, which means Corey and Nate are playing for 7th and 8th place, and we'll see who takes that one down. All right, let's move on to week 16 here in the semifinal week of the DFL and find out what is going to happen in these exciting playoff matchups ahead in our projection preview.
Projection preview.
All right. We are back. Everybody in the league has a matchup this week. This is the last week that will be like this. Some people playing for pride, some people playing for the chip, some people just trying not to advance in the toilet bowl. Let's see who is who here. Let's start with my matchup versus Riley. We already got a little bit of a head start down with our defensive guys. 10.5 for me at a Landman and 10 for him at a Jones, so we're on an even slate to start here. I'm projected for a little more than he is, but not by much. I did end up slotting Josh Allen back in. Don't trust P. River on Monday night versus San Francisco. I thought it'd be fun if he was just awesome off the bat, but turns out he's 44 years old and doesn't really have the zip that you need in the NFL. So he did throw a touchdown last week. We'll see what happens with another week under his belt. In either case, I'm starting Josh Allen. I don't want to lose at all, though the poop hat would be fun. But in any case, I'm trying to win and not drop this game to Riley, so I'm hoping for good luck. We're going to see Kimani Vidal versus Omarion Hampton. I could probably swap those guys around so it'd be cooler, but it is what it is. Rico Dowdle versus Derrick Henry. We got a lot of running backs going in this one. Jordan Mason is even getting fired up, and I put David Montgomery in. Over RJ Harvey. It's a tough decision. I might take one of these guys out, but I don't know who. Kenneth Gainwell has been awesome, and I'm just throwing him in. I'm sick of not starting him, and so he'll probably score 5 points this week, and that is what it is. Other than that, a little spooky seeing Jameson Williams get hot at the end of the year here, but I'm giving the advantage to me. Okay, let's look at Alex versus Artie here. This match has already gotten a head start as well because of that crazy Thursday night performance with the Rams and the Seahawks. Stafford going big there, so that's a big help for his projections. He's projected to win by about 17, but Nico Collins and Amon-Ra St. Brown have both been electric the last few weeks. We'll see if they can power up Artie to surpass the early hurdle that Alex is presenting. No one planned for that Monday night game, it looks like, besides Zaire Franklin. Oh, no, he's got Jawan Jennings. So Artie's going to be waiting until Monday. Oh, geez, no, Jonathan Taylor's in that game. What am I saying? Yeah, these guys are waiting all the way down to the wire to see how this one's going to turn out, because obviously Jonathan Taylor's a huge part of Alex's projections, but we all know it's been a little rougher for him since Daniel Jones went down, and it's P. River back there, so we will see what happens with that. Right now, the advantage is with Alex. Speaking of advantages, it's Sal versus Ricky, Osama bin Darnold's versus the Sorcerers, and we already got a monster game out of Puka Nacua with 2 touchdowns, 225 yards, and 12 receptions. And Jackson Smith-Njigba also beat his sky-high projections as well with 8 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. That was all second half. He didn't have a single reception in the first half. And still managed to score 23.6 points. I think that guy is script-proof, game-proof. He's just going to score you 20 points every week. Pretty crazy stuff there. It's a big wall for Ricky to be up against, and he started Colby Parkinson in his tight end slot here, so that is just locked in for 4.1 points. Now, if he wants to play Trey McBride, he has to sit somebody else, but so T. Higgins is riding the pine right now, which is definitely a painful decision for him, I'm sure. He's really depending on the Texans to just come out and blast the Raiders here, which they have. They're, the betting favorite to do so. So we'll see if that ends up powering him up. He's got Joe Burrow going, and even though he benched T. Higgins, he's hoping he lights him up in Miami. So tough stuff here. He's going to need some big boom games from a few guys. Bijan Robinson, known to do it. Terry McLaurin can get 2 touchdowns. See if Chris Godwin gets a ton of volume. It's certainly possible, but he is staring at a wall right now. Audric Estime getting fired up because I think Devin Neal's having issues and Kamara's been out too, so he might just be the next man up. We'll see how good Audric Estime ends up doing. Jordan Love getting put in instead of Sam Darnold. Probably could have used the 23 points from Sam Darnold, but that's not that high of a bar to meet for Jordan Love. So it's tonight, Saturday night, is the Packers versus the Bears, and that should be interesting to say the least. Also got Josh Jacobs going in that one, so nice little stack there. Every touchdown that the Packers get, realistically, Sal should be involved in. Tough to pick the champ for this one, the reigning champion in Ricky, because of the absolute wall that he's facing in the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers in the NFL here. It's a strong looking team for Sal and a tough week for Ricky. We'll see if he's able to pull it off. All right, we got the homeless losers versus the retarded YNs for the final match of their seasons, playing for 5th and 6th. It looks like Chris has the advantage so far, but not because of any early action. It's strictly due to projections. Nick Benito has been a great pick for Chris this year. He's just been solid and able to be started every week. Wan'Dale Robinson is like a top 10 wide receiver this year, which is hilarious to think about. Jake Ferguson's been great. He had a tough week last week. Same with Dak Prescott, but I know Chris is banking on him here, and you can never underestimate Christian McCaffrey. So Chris is looking strong for this one. Dylan going back to Bo Nix. He's got Jahmyr Gibbs. Ramondre Stevenson is a weaker RB2 start, but plenty of wide receivers to back him up, and 2 all-time defensive players on his team. So a close projection. Chris has a slight 3-point edge, but that one is a coin flip. Could go either way. We've got Lehman versus Eric in the second round of the Toilet Bowl here. These are 2 people who did a lot of losing this year, and either one of them could do it again. These guys are boom or bust. They let you down when it matters, and it matters right now. So it's really all about seeing how many people let their owners down on each team. They're projected for around 130 each, but I know they average about 120 to 115, so we'll see who ends up having the bad beats this week and who ends up moving on in the toilet bowl out of these two. We've got some action tonight at 5 p.m. at a Saquon Barkley in that Eagles versus Commanders game. And I think that's also going to have Kyle Manungai going tonight, Kobe Dean going tonight. So definitely plenty of action on Saturday for these two, but going to be waiting until Monday to see how Brock Purdy does. And finally, we have Corey and Nate just in a dead heat projection-wise, 50-50, a true one. Less than a point apart, which is crazy to think about. Corey still got Justin Herbert in. He just doesn't believe in Drake May, which is funny to say the least. But Justin Herbert against Dallas isn't a bad choice. He's still got Kareem Hunt going. I don't think Corey has changed his lineup in 3 weeks. And Nate also benched Charbonnet for a 17-point Charbonnet week. So tough stuff there for both these guys, but they're still projected to score plenty. Like I said, they're playing for pride, so we'll see who ends up coming out on top there. And that will do it. That is everybody's match for this week. It should be an interesting one. I'm excited for the return of Saturday games. We got the 5 o'clock game tonight and the 8 o'clock game after that. And then a full slate on Monday. No more bye weeks. No more bullshit. Just a couple more weeks of playoff football. And then hopefully we can watch the Patriots in the real NFL playoffs start taking down some wins as well. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the games tonight. I hope your teams win. I hope you're having luck in your other leagues if you're in them. And thanks for listening. We'll have another episode for you fresh next week. Later.
Thank you for listening to the DFL Breakdown. Tune in next week for more.